test taking strategies. So we've all been there where we walk into that exam or we log in on our computer to take that final on our online class, and suddenly your mind goes blank, you have that pit in your stomach, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to even pass this exam? I don't remember anything. So the sad thing is that test anxiety that I just described, it really does have the power to, derail weeks and months worth of studying and hard work and dedication, and it can be debilitating. And I want to try to help you guys alleviate some of that, okay? So first we're going to talk about managing your time for maximum effectiveness. So cramming may have worked well in high school, but again, I'm sure most of you are finding that in college, that's not the best way to go about things. So we've all done it, especially, in our high school years, putting stuff off for that exam until the last minute, loading yourself up with coffee, with, whatever caffeinated drinks or whatever, an attempt to try and cram as much information as possible into your head. So researchers at UCLA are now saying, do not even bother doing that, right? So they're saying that the problem is the trade-off between the sleep and the study. So studying is, of course, one of the main, contributing factors to academic success and achievement. But what students aren't appreciating and aren't finding the value in is the amount of adequate sleep. And of course, we all hear you need to sleep more, but truly you do, especially when you're trying to be a student, trying to, be successful in college, especially at the college level. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. Also, do not overcommit. So you want to make sure that you're saying yes to all of the things that are going to help you to be successful, that are keeping you lined up with the goals that you've set for yourself. So if you spend most of your time doing lots of little things, that are somewhat unimportant, of course, that can be playing on our phones or whatever that may be, instead of the big things like studying for your exams and committing yourself to things, those tests often don't go as well as you maybe had planned or anticipated. So, and then in that given situation, in the testing setting, that anxiety takes over, and then it's just a downward spiral. We all know, we've probably all been there. So, and usually we understand, and I probably didn't study as much as I should have. I was too busy doing whatever else that maybe was, could have waited. So again, plan for at least 2 to 3 hours outside of class for each hour required in class. So you want to make sure that you're taking the time to study. You want to study early on in the semester, reviewing things often. The less you have to try and cram into your head at the last minute and, stuff into your mind, the better. Coming from high school, a lot of the studying was memorization, right? And you could get through with good grades, usually memorizing different facts and things like that. But in college, you realize that memorization is not as valuable typically as it was in your younger years of school. So it's more important to learn material long term, not just to pass an exam and then move on. You really have to know those concepts, memorize those concepts. A lot of those things are comprehensive. So something else to keep in mind. And then of course, test anxiety. It's normal to experience, okay? And it's not always a bad thing when you're thinking, we all have some sort of performance anxiety when it comes to taking tests. It's our body's natural response to a performance request. So in good situations, it keeps us alert. That adrenaline makes us want to do well. We get, excited about it. Like, okay, I've got this. I know what I'm doing here. But then when it starts to affect your performance, when that anxiety sets in, that negative anxiety, it can become a problem, and then it can become a habit. And so, you want to make sure that, you're practicing all intentions, using that adrenaline for positive, to our advantage, not as to our detriment, as a disadvantage. And here's a little chart, negative versus positive thought patterns. So of course, we've all engaged, most likely, in negative self-talk and hopefully positive self-talk as well. And again, this is one of those things that it can really, trip us out and psych us out when we're trying to take an exam. So, it's important to train yourself to really focus on those positive thought patterns. If you really think about yourself in a testing situation, you can, very easily and quickly go down that negative self-talk route or positive self-talk. So you don't want to, again, I keep calling it a cycle of insanity and you spiral out of control when you're taking that test, telling yourself, I can't do this. Oh my gosh, I don't remember anything. Oh geez, what's going to happen now? Oh, I knew all the answers, but now I've gone blank. Turn that around. Tell yourself normal. Hey, this is normal. I can't blow it out of proportion. Let's keep this in perspective. I'm working at my own pace. Just focus on that. You've done this before. Even if I do fail this exam, maybe you are going to fail this exam. Okay. It's happened. Does that mean that you're a failure in life? No. Does this mean that now all of your academic dreams are over? No, not at all. Right. So it's just measuring your performance of how you did on that particular test. Maybe you didn't study how you should have or could have. So make sure you're giving yourself an accurate self-analysis. And when you're criticizing yourself or critiquing yourself, make sure it's, an accurate reflection of what's going on. So tips to overcome this test anxiety, some more tips. So keep a positive mindset. Again, I know this can be super hard. I'm completely guilty of, falling into that negative mindset in different testing situations. But going into it positive can really help. Just tell yourself, this is going to be fine. I know what I know, and I've, done all that I can to study. I'm going to pass this exam. If the worst comes to worst, keep it, as I mentioned before, keeping it into perspective. If worst comes to worst and I fail, I'm still going to pass the class. Whether I pass or fail the course, I can always retake it. So just really keep it all into perspective that it's truly not the end of the world, right? So challenge those negative thoughts. Make yourself turn that negative into a positive. Make that positive self-thinking. Take control over how you choose to think about the situation. So try to control it as much as you can to influence a better outcome. And then frequently remind yourself of your successes. Try and think about some of the things that you have done well, classes that you have done well in. Maybe you just made someone smile today. I don't know. Just think about something that you've done well. Maybe you got a job, anything like that. And then of course, being prepared. Okay. This is just a given. The more prepared you are, the less anxious you're, most likely going to be. And of course, this is essential to testing well. So, make sure you're attending your classes. Read all the assigned material. I know we all get tired of, reading and watching videos and things like that. We've all got a million things going on, but just keep yourself as best prepared as you can. Get to know your professors. I stress that to you guys all the time. Make your presence known in class. I love it when you guys email me and are talking about things. I love it when you ask me questions. Use the tutoring services if you need to. Plan your study time. Set study goals. Get in a group if you can, and work with other students. So, and also something else to consider, separate review time from daily assignments. So just because you spend, hours working on assignments or papers or whatever, that is different than review time for an exam or a test. So before the test, a lot of students, to prepare before a test, it's just as important. So of course, turn your electronic devices off. Those can be a huge distraction. That goes off, it breaks your concentration, your phone vibrates, whatever. Review those notes, review outlines, review summaries, review all of that stuff daily, weekly, everything that you're doing. You want to make sure that you're reviewing it often, not just at the last minute. Try and predict those test questions. Look over those previous quizzes, graded papers. Try and go off of just different assignments that you've had, feedback that your professors have maybe given you. And then of course, ask your professors to describe an upcoming test. You can at any time go to their office hours or email or, chat, however that may be, Skype, ask them to describe the upcoming test. How can I best study for this test that's coming up? I really want to do well. They're usually more than willing to help you with that. And hopefully they'll give you a study guide. So also think about clues that your professors have given you during class. Sometimes they'll tell you this is going to be on the exam or you're going to want to know this for the test. So take note of those things. And again, when professors are typically, when they pause maybe before saying something or after they say something and they pause, that can typically be a clue during class that that's something that you might want to know. And then during the test, okay, so it really is all about you. You really need to do everything that you possibly can to relax and forget about the other people in the room. We all have been there where that one student who always does well typically, gets up after 10 minutes of a, 50 question test and turn that test in and they're done. And maybe you're the last one sitting there, or, why are those students taking so long? Did I not spend enough time on it? And then you start doubting yourself. And then again, it just goes that cycle. Make sure you have the necessary materials. Do you need a pencil, a pen? Is your internet up and running as it should be? Do you need a green book for your essay on campus? Calculator? I'll never forget one time I honestly it was my freshman year in college. I went into a final. I needed a book for an essay. I did not have one. Had to run across campus, had to come in late. Oh, it was so embarrassing. It was awful. I was completely psyched out. I was out of breath. I was, humiliated. Had to sit in the very front of class and try and take this final. I wasn't prepared, plain and simple. Make sure that you're reading directions carefully and completely. So this not only holds true for the test that you're taking, think about it with assignments. There are so many times that you lose out on points, that you lose out on, what you're doing because you just simply did not read the directions carefully and completely. When you get that test, look over the entire test first, then kind of figure how you can manage and, budget your time. So take into account the point values, which, those answers that are short, the ones that oh yeah, I know this, I got this. Answer those first, okay? And make sure that you're reading each answer. So I know sometimes with multiple choice, we see one, oh yeah, this is the right one. Oh yeah, this is the right one. But then maybe, read back through and maybe it's not the right one. So make sure you're reading each one, each option. And before you turn it in, if you have time, ask yourself, did I follow the directions? Let me just reread these. Do I have spelling, grammatical errors, anything like that going on here? Did I answer each question fully? And again, those are just things to consider if you've got time. And so this, I won't go through each one. This PowerPoint will be on online for you. You can print it out if you want this. So it's just kind of tips for different types of tests that you typically take in college. So the one I did want to bring up is this one, look for qualifiers down here, the fifth little bullet. The all, always, never, if, then, those types of things. Really, really consider those. Those can really trip students up. Those can confuse students. Those are often missed, those questions are. So if the answer is all or always, make sure that's a definite, okay? If there's any if or, well, maybe, those can be, oops, I just saw a spelling error on there. Sorry about that. I should say read, R-E-A-D, all possible answers before selecting one, which I actually just mentioned. But yeah, so this is just something that you guys can consider. And again, print out if you want when you're taking, just to consider. And then the Liebeck for essay tests, again, this is something that you can use, just kind of keep in mind, pretend as if no one knows anything about this topic that you're going to write about or the subject. So you want to just include that basic info. Okay, if you get stuck, remember, read it again. Skip it for now, come back to it. A lot of times there are answers, in other test questions that can maybe help you. That's a strategy that some instructors use when they're putting together their tests. Treat intuition with care. So if your gut is telling you, oh, the answer is B, make sure, use your head too, okay? Trust your gut, but then again, use your head. For those of you who are picture smart people, visualize the answer's location. So maybe you remember seeing that on a chart on page 54, right? So you're trying, oh yeah, I remember seeing that on that graph or whatever. Rewrite the question in a way that will help you. If you've got time, free write, kind of go off on a little, whatever, maybe that answer will come to you. And then when all else fails, if you have no idea, just write as close as answer as you can, okay, and hope for the best. After the test, this is the one area that most students neglect, that they, and I've been there totally. After the test, I'm done, I'm out, let's go do something. I don't ever want to think about this again, okay? But that's really the last thing you should do. Right afterwards, you should really consider how effective your studying method was. Did you predict the questions accurately? Did you, predict the topics that were on that exam? Did you have all of that, you know, in order, and was it accurate? Decide what you might want to do differently next time. This is a point where if, you know, you're connecting with other students or you have their phone numbers or emails, whatever, maybe now's the time to get together with them and try and figure out, all right, you want to get together and try and study for this next test, or, you know, whatever. Okay, after your test is returned, you know, we're instructors, we're human, we are not, you know, calculators, and we are not machines. So mistakes happen, right? So make sure that the point totals add up correctly. If you find any other grading errors, politely, you know, ask your teacher. It's okay. We want you to, you know, let us know what material was covered. Keep all of your materials. Do not throw away your materials. Do not just say, done, next, you know, keep that stuff with you. Also, take note of the types of questions that were on the exam. Most likely, instructors are going to follow the same format for most of their tests and exams. What types of questions did you miss? Anything to learn from instructors' comments? And then correct missed questions for future studying. And this is especially valuable when, you know, it's a comprehensive semester and then you've got a comprehensive final at the end. So hopefully this was helpful, and let me know. Again, I know this testing can be a tough topic, so let me know if you have questions, and talk to you guys soon.